Is it William Contreras or Adley Rutchman who will lead the way at the catcher position for 2025? Matt and I debate the position and our rankings on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Yainer, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Yainer. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I and to you guys this time of year, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience where you're going to get text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And this time of year on Subtext, you'll get our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in our bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $100 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. And all right, folks, this time of year, we're getting really close. The Super Bowl just ended. If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fans, congratulations. If you're a Chiefs fans, well, you know what? It had to come to an end at some point. But you know what? You're here with us now. We're talking some fantasy baseball, and we're starting our 2025 rankings episodes off with the catcher position. Doing things a little bit differently this time around. And guys, actually let us know if you like this style of episode, if you like more of a traditional consensus style. We're playing with how we want to do these rankings episodes. Today, we're going to go through Matt and I's top 10 or 12 at the position and kind of go back and forth on where we have these guys ranked, more than just going through each name individually and kind of breaking them down too much because we feel like we've done that a lot already. But Matt, I will let you jump in with your rankings first and kind of give some thoughts on them. And then maybe I'll do mine and we'll go back and forth.
All right. So first off, I want to say happy, pitcher catcher reporting day. We're here. Baseball now starts. We get real baseball in less than 2 weeks. I am excited. On top of that, welcome to now 5 days a week for Locked On Fantasy Baseball. So you'll be getting it Monday to Friday till the end of the season. So this is going to be a good time. Dom, also, I got to highlight, love the way you said Locked On in the beginning. So,
did I put a little twang on it? Did I?
It was a little twang, not even swang.
Right,
it was a little twang.
I think I'm just excited because, like you said, I feel like when the Super Bowl ends, it's officially time for all of us and all of our fantasy baseball fanatics. I stay locked on with us, our everydayers, and even our new listeners. Just time to really get locked on with some fantasy baseball here, and I'm super excited to do it today.
Yeah, and you know what? We're switching up this offseason, so we're going to cut out the team review. If you want to know what our thoughts are on, the season for last year and, the fantasy assets, please go back to everything right after the regular season ended. You can kind of get our, early perspective. Well, not early, our review of those teams. But now let's get into it. Let's talk about the rankings. Let's start going at it and go from there. So, I guess, Dom, we're just going to read off what we got on our top 12 and then pretty much just debate our rankings that we don't like.
I think a good way to do it is you could read your top 12 off. If you have any notes or anything like that, maybe sound off. I'll do mine. Probably going to have a little add after that. But you know what? I think it's just fun. Let's go back and forth with it. I think the fans are going to enjoy it. We always have a fun time with these kinds of episodes.
All right. Yeah. So, I'll show you mine. You show me yours, type thing. That's gonna be a good
yeah. I'm excited. You're getting me excited now. I was already excited, but,
A little sore, but it's fine. All right, let's get serious. Let's talk some real baseball. Sorry for the 4-minute banter. But at my number one catcher, I got William Contreras, which I think is, pretty much he's in his tier of his own. Then you got Adley Rutschman and Salvador Perez in my tier 2. Guys, I have finished my tier-based rankings except for my closers. That'll be coming out and be done today. So if you're on the subtext, you'll get that. Then I finish up in my tier 3 with Cal Riley, Shea Langeliers, and Yainer Diaz. Tier 4 is Will Smith, Wilson Contreras, and Tyler Stevenson and Austin Wells. And then my tier 5, which is my final tier of this episode. JT Realmuto, Logan O'Hoppe, and I'm gonna throw in my 13th pitcher. I'm a 13th catcher, and Francisco Alvarez. So that's it. I mean, here's the thing, right? I don't really care. I'm going to rank them based off of how I like them. Am I drafting most of these guys? Absolutely not. Am I higher than ADP on a lot of these guys? Probably. But you know what? Look, there's some guys going super, super high that I'm going to call bust on the season. And there's guys that we're going to go over that, ultimately I think are the ones that I'm going to be targeting. We're going to go through that. Who we're going to target, who Dom and I think there's a big difference on our rankings and kind of go from there. Dom, why don't you read off yours?
Yeah, so actually, I'll be honest, our top 12, there's maybe a handful of guys in there that were a little bit different on, but I think it's pretty similar. I actually think it's the same 12 guys. I have William Contreras one as well. Like you said, kind of in a class of his own. He's been dominant ever since he's gone over to Milwaukee. And yeah, number one catcher, probably won't have a lot of shares of him though. 2, I actually have Yainer Diaz there, higher than ADP and most other people. I think he's very, very good at what he does. He's going to hit for average. He's got a little bit of pop. Astros team, he's kind of going to have to hit in a higher position in that lineup with Kyle Tucker gone, so I like him. Adley, I think Adley's in a void for me this year. Very disappointing last year. He still has all the upside in the world, but for his price, not doing it. Then I have Salvador Perez up at 4, Raleigh at 5. Both of them could be potential targets depending if you're doing like an NFBC kind of league or something like that. Catchers tend to go higher. I think if you're playing in your home leagues, I think you'll be able to get a Raleigh a little bit later. He's a big target of mine, a lot of pop. Salvador Perez still got a little bit left in the tank as well. Will Smith at 6, Wilson Contreras at 7. Will Smith, we know who he is at this point of his career. He's 250 hitter, 20-ish home runs, good counting stats, plays on a good team. Wilson Contreras, I like him as well at 7. I think he's going to be good playing a lot of first base this year. Shea Langeliers at 8, JT Realmuto at 9, Austin Wells at 10, Tyler Stevenson at 11, Logan O'Hoppe at 12. If I have to highlight one of those guys, it's Austin Wells at 10. Love him. I think he's going to have a big year for the Yankees. 250-ish hitter. He's got a lot of pop. I think it's going to play in the stadium. We haven't really seen him live up to the potential yet, but a very good minor league player. On the whole, kind of going to just back what Matt said. Draft catcher late. Don't pay up for them high. There's too much, scarcity at positions like outfield. Middle infield is tough. And, even starting pitching, if you don't get, a couple of elite starting pitchers and you're taking a catcher in the 3rd, 4th round and you're passing up an SP1, SP2 type, it's going to bite you in the butt later on. So Matt and I have always been of the same advocacy when it's just drafting catcher late. It's the best way to go. Unless you're playing in the 2 catcher league, that kind of changes things up. In a 2 catcher league, I think it's the exact opposite strategy. I think you take a catcher early, you get yourself an elite one earlier on, maybe not in the 3rd, 4th round. But you know what? If you can get one in like 6 or 7, you can get yourself a top 10 catcher in round 6 or 7. You kind of want to do that in a league like that. Otherwise, you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. But with that being said, Matt, any final thoughts here on our top 12s or just anything else to close this up real quick?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to see it, like an example, we'll be doing it once a month. An NFBC draft. We did a mock, 2 weeks ago? I did it. Where there was a 2 catcher. You can follow my strategy. You pretty much you nail one. I still was able to get one in like the 8th or 9th, which is still with like right outside the top 100. That's a great spot for it. And then you kind of just like say, yeah, whatever, like for the second one at that point. You're not going to get too much of a positional eligibility without losing the value at the actual counting stats and being able to, actually contribute more than you're going to tell me than a first baseman, because that's just not going to happen. Whether they're not going to get the total at bats or they're not going to get the total, opportunities in general. Like they're just most catchers. We don't have the Buster Posies anymore or anything of the sort, or anybody that's that kind of prototypical catcher. So nobody I really feel is that, desirable at this point that's worth the pick other than trying to have the positional eligibility. I'm sorry, this isn't, fantasy football, which, rest in peace to the 2024 season, but where, you're getting that tight end advantage where you're drafting the Kelsey like 2 years ago, not this year or the year before, but 2 years ago where you really had it, is that you're not getting that from the catcher position. So just kind of be hasty and, while everybody's wasting their picks on catchers earlier in the draft, you bob and weave and then you focus on the later rounds. And I promise you, you're going to have a way better team than the person that has, William Contreras that's going literally at pick 30 overall right now based off of ADP, which is absolutely bananas. I think the highest catcher drafted this high since Buster Posey. And you know what? I don't think it's worth it. But, before we get into, our debates, what we think about certain players and things like that, We do have a little break, but I promise you're going to want to stick around, and there's going to be less banter, and there's going to be more fantasy baseball coming up next.
When
And,
when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking up a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I miss my chance. And guys, once again, I said it last time and I was right. I told you to go for Anthony Davis going over to the Mavericks in the first quarter. The guy had 14, 8, and a block. He finished the game with almost 40. Over to the Lakers. He's going to want to show off and do his thing. I like Jimmy Butler headed over to the Warriors and Brandon Ingram to Toronto. FanDuel has some great bets on all of those guys, and you're going to check those out. So right now, head over to right now. Oh, let me slow down here. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Once again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And then, folks, I need to once again talk to you guys about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. It's going to be your ultimate fantasy baseball companion as this offseason continues to unfold. You can rely on us for our dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts right to your phone, including our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. So stay ahead of your fantasy baseball league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your victories begins. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And if you do want to join us over on Subtext, make sure you check out the link in the bio where you're listening, watching, or it's available on any of our social media platforms. Whew. And all right, Matt, it's time to get into it here, brother. And I don't know if you've been looking over my rankings at all. I don't know if there's anywhere you want to start specifically. If you looked at anything and you saw what in the world is Dom thinking with this ranking, and I'm sure you have. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Let's see here. How do I put this?
He said, "How do I put this?" Oh Lord, I don't know if I'm ready.
So I mean, explain why you have Yainer Diaz at 2. Like that is the biggest one. Like it's not like we're going to be debating like we're splitting hairs because I got him at 6, but I feel like there's a big tier difference, right? Like we're talking about tiers in terms of talent and production, right? And I'll let you explain yourself, but here's how I look at it. I have him in tier 3 and at the bottom of my tier 3, and I just feel like obviously Adley, Rutchman, and Salvador Perez, who I think have higher upside and also had a better season in terms of Perez and done it before, are just in a league of their own, along with the other guys that I think just have a higher ceiling. So explain why you would have him as your number 2 overall catcher.
So the thing is, and I think you kind of touched on it before, I forgot who we're talking about, but is I have him ranked at 2, but we don't actually have to take him at 2. Maybe this is before we got on the air here. I have, and I think this is how everyone should do their rankings. I have the guys ranked where I think they're going to finish the end of 2025 at, which is, very hard to do, but I really love the upside and what Yainer Diaz did last year at 25 years old for the Houston Astros. He played 148 games. He had 585 at bats, 70 runs, 29 doubles, 3 triples, 16 homers, 84 RBIs, stole a couple bags, and he hit 299. Like very, 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 very strong stats for he played 104 games in 2023, so we won't call it his first season in the bigs, but first season where he played 110 plus games, right? First season where he got over 400 at bats in the bigs. Like I said, there's power in this bat that's sneaky. His hard hit rate is really good. Bat speed, squares up the ball, sweet spot is all, slightly above average. So I think a lot of those doubles can turn into, he hit 29 doubles last year. I think a lot of those can turn into home runs in 2025 as he gets bigger, stronger, older. He's only going to be 26 this year, hitting the prime of his career. When you look at the stuff, underlying stuff for expected batting average, 299, exactly what he hit last year. So I think you're going to get like 20 plus homers, good runs and RBIs. He had 70 and 84 last year, which were pretty good. I think he's going to hit higher in the lineup this year. They still got Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve, and there's still bats in that lineup where he can drive the runs in and be driven in as well. And then if he hits 300, and this is the thing with catcher, right? You have guys like Cal Raleigh too, who's more of a power specialist. I think you got to bob and weave and adjust to what your lineup needs. If you're, drafting catcher and, you need a guy that's going to give you some average, RBI, a little bit of pop. I think Yainer Diaz is going to be a perfect fit for your team. And once again, we don't have to draft him at second, which is cool. I just have him ranked there because, everything I just spoke about, I think he's going to have a really, really strong showing in 2025 as a 26-year-old.
So, I mean, I would be more on your side if he was hitting around those guys. He's hitting after all the power bats in that lineup. So, like, way it's projected right now for 2025 is Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes, Yordan Alvarez, Christian Walker, then Yainer Diaz. And then it's Pena. RBIs will be good, but the thing is, like, that's if he can, live up to the power, but nobody's driving him in but maybe Pena. But, like, quite honestly, Pena strikes out or anything of the sort, and then you're just like, okay, cool. Or he doesn't get driven in, and there's just two guys on base. I feel like the bottom of the lineup is going to have a lot of we call it points left out on the field. They're not going to be able to drive in these guys, and that's going to be the issue for him. So yeah, he might have the ribs, but also too, I mean, you're going to go based off of a 16 home run season this year, even with 585 at bats. I don't know if I see it there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the year before the pace was significantly better. But I just don't see a world where he turns 16 into 30 or even 25. Maybe he gets to 2021, but you're not really satisfied with, one, the draft price, and two, I don't feel like he's giving me an edge at the position. So I'm not feeling too wonderful about him. That's why I have him at 6. But 6 isn't burying him. His situation is better than others. It's just, for him to be 2 over, the Adley Rutschmans, that team and where he's going to be hitting is going to be a lot better than Diaz. Salvador Perez has done it and has shown it quite a few times. It's like, okay, these are solidified talents. And then you have upside of guys I have ahead of him, or Cal Raleigh, who you do love and has a lineup around him and has the power and shown it. And then Shea Langeliers, which I know you'll probably be coming at me in about a moment, but has a team that's actually on the rise and has moved from the massive, pitcher safety park to now a AAA park where he already hit 29 home runs in a non-hitter park at all, and is actually a really good pitcher park. So now taking that, having the shorter porch, I think is just going to be that much better. So for me, I see him behind those guys, and maybe I could talk you down off the ledge just a hair.
Yeah, I see. I can't argue with you because I think we're arguing tids and bits with Salvador Perez and Cal Raleigh, because I have Yainer Diaz at 2, then I have Salvador Perez at 4 and Cal Raleigh at 5. Not super far off. Like I said, you can kind of bob and weave at that point, because right now Yainer Diaz ADP is 74, Salvador Perez is 83, and Cal Raleigh is 87. I'll say this, and like I said, if you're drafting in high competitive leagues, they're probably going to go around this ADP. But I think in a lot of home leagues, and I think that's where a lot of our listeners are playing their main leagues is in their home leagues. I think these guys fall. I think you can get the Yainer Diaz, Salvador Perez, Cal Raleighs at and around 100. And I'm not even going to argue with you which one you want to take there. I like Yainer Diaz a little bit more. We were talking a little bit about the pop, and you kind of mentioned in 2023 it was 355 at bats, 23 home runs, and that was in the majors. And like I said, the power plays, the hard hit rate's really good, and then all the other power stuff is, if not at least at average, above average. And he had 29 doubles last year, and he's going to be 26. At 26 you're growing, you're getting bigger, stronger, faster. I think there's a little bit more pop in that bat. But, if you want to take the big, short power thing in Cal Raleigh, great. If you want to take the guy who's been doing it for a long time, Salvador Perez, can't argue with you there. I actually think that's a sweet spot for catcher. I love all 3 of those guys. And if you get one of those 3 at around pick 100, maybe you got to pay up pick 90 in your home league. I think that's a smart spot to get in on a pretty good any of 3 of those catcher. I do have Yainer Diaz at the top of the list for me.
I hear you. Before we dig into anything else, your turn to pick and choose on my end. We'll be right back after this.
All right, Matt. So I think the only one that does make sense here is Shea Langeliers. As I said, we're not really too far off on anybody else in our top 12. So you have Shea Langeliers at 5. I have him at 8. Let's talk about it. Just tell everybody why you like Shea Langeliers.
Yeah, so here's my deal with him, right? Like I already kind of like alluded to why I like him in terms of the power displayed in a pitcher friendly park, a pitcher's park where it's very hard to have show the power and still managing to have 29 home runs in under a 500 at bat season. Then on top of that, you now go into a AAA park where now the porch is going to be significantly shorter and the power is going to show a lot more. Then you look at the fact that I actually like the team. You got the Butler, um, you got Wilson that should be getting called up today. You got other guys on that team.
Brent Rooker.
Yeah. Like you got other guys on this team that are going to be actually be able to help him. Whereas, past Oakland A players, you talk about a guy being good, even like Matt Olson, for instance, but never got the serious bump up or was able to cross the level of actual fantasy contributor because of the fact that there wasn't going to be counting stats. There's actually going to be counting stats for him. Now the question is, will he have 500 at bat season? That's going to be the biggest thing. But for me, the ceiling is kind of limitless. Like you look at what he's doing, right? The slug is sitting at 456. The average exit velocity sitting at 91.3 miles an hour. He's barreling the ball 12.8% of the time, creating hard contact 44% of the time, and the launch angle is looking really nice at 35.3% of the 33%. And then the bat speed's fantastic. Look, you're not going to draft him for his batting average. This is literally like a Kyle Schwarber light at the catcher position. What you're literally drafting him for is to get the power boost and edge at the catcher position. That is where you're going to get the advantage. Like, by no means are you going to have a batter like a catcher that gets 400 to 450 at bats and going to hit 260 to 275, and that's going to be the difference maker in your batting average category. He's not going to make up for that difference. But what will is the power. And the same on the other side of that coin, when talking about batting average, he's also not going to deplete it because he might have less at bats. So it shouldn't hurt it as much either in your terms of your batting average, but you're going to benefit in the runs, the ribbies, and the home runs all day long. And Shea Langeliers has a potential to finish that high. And we all see when we draft guys like the Schwarbers or even the Cruises from back in the day, where we don't care about their batting average, just their power upside. And Shea Langeliers out of the catcher position gives you the best advantage to win week in and week out because of the unexpected power bump.
I'm going to start my thing by my rebuttal by saying I really like Shea Langeliers. I have him at 8. We're not super far off. I will say this though. I think you disrespected my boy Yainer Diaz by having Langeliers over him. I will say that. But with Langeliers, I agree. I think the pop is going to be better. I think 30 plus home runs is obviously in the cards. RBIs are going to be good. Batting average, Matt kind of touched on it. There's a world where it's better than 220 because if you look at the underlying stuff, it has him at around 240. So the world where the batting average can come up too. I will say this though, he kind of has himself in almost a Yainer Diaz spot where in the lineup where I don't see the runs being great, and the RBIs could be really good. See, the thing is, so Oakland's projected lineup or the Athletics projected lineup is Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, JJ Bleday, then Langeliers, and then after that Soderstrom, Geloff, Seth Brown, Gio Urshela, and Jacob Wilson. So I don't think he's going to have a huge amount of runs. The RBI should be all right with Rooker and Butler ahead of him if they're not just hitting tanks. If they might just be hitting tanks, but Bleday's okay too. There's maybe this world where Langeliers moves up to third. We'll see how things go. But he's a decent catcher. I have him down a little bit further. Just I don't think the runs are going to be great. The batting average is obviously a concern. But he's still definitely Matt said. I'd almost preface him as a Cal Raleigh light. Because I think Cal Raleigh is going to do what Shea Langeliers does, but he's just on a better team, and so the counting stats are going to be better. And I think Raleigh, has a little bit better of a batting average upside. But with that being said, I can't really argue too much. I do like Shea Langeliers a lot. Matt, let's do this here for the end. Let's talk about let's each bring up a guy that we didn't talk about. That's outside of our top 12 that we're kind of digging on. Somebody that hey, listen, everyone should be paying attention for here at Catcher. I have one ready, and if you guys been paying attention, I talked about him a little bit. If you want a second to gather yours,
go for it.
I want to talk about Ivan Herrera from the St. Louis Cardinals again. He is an absolute young stud. He had a great season last year in the limited time he did play. I'm going to break that down for you right now. I have him as my 16th catcher off the board. Early ADP, I know was lower than that. But he's somebody who's going to be moving up. 21st catcher off the board, pick 302. He can be the last pick of your draft. I like I said, I think he's going to start catching a little bit more hype as all the fantasy analysts start talking about him like I am, which is definitely going to happen. But last year, Ivan Herrera, 24-year-old, 72 games played, 229 at bats. He had 37 runs, 12 doubles, a triple, 5 homers, 27 RBIs, 5 steals. Walk to strikeout ratio was great with 25 walks to 53 strikeouts. So even in points leagues, he's going to play. A 301 batting average, and it's kind of what he does. He doesn't have like a crazy amount of pop. He does have some speed. Kind of maybe like the days where JT Real Muto is getting like 15 bags. I could kind of see that for him. And he's just good. Like I said, the underlying stuff likes him with batting average. I think there's a world where 20 home runs, maybe 20 home runs, 10 to 15 steals, I think is going to play for him. And you know what? He's going to be in the Cardinals lineup. And I know the Cardinals weren't good last year. I think all the young bats are going to have to play this year. I think Arenado's on his way out. Goldschmidt left. So these young boys are going to have to show what they're made of this year. And I think Ivan Herrera is somebody that's being way undervalued at the catcher position right now.
I completely agree. I actually got to dip out of here. But Dom, it's going to be Sean Murphy. Tell him why we like him. Peace out, guys.
Gotcha. So let's jump in here. Let's talk some Sean Murphy, somebody that I love as well. Atlanta Braves. That lineup is stacked this year. And, Murphy is somebody that's been around for a while. And we know who he is. He didn't have a great season last year, but, there's no reason we should count him out. He was banged up. He only played 72 games. If you go back and look at, 2023, when Sean Murphy was an all-star with those same Atlanta Braves, he had 108 at-bats. 65 runs, 21 doubles, 21 homers, 68 RBIs, 49 walks to 98 strikeouts, and he had 251. So I think Murphy is a guy that's going to hit 250-ish, 25-ish home runs. I think the runs and the RBIs have really, really high potential to if Sean Murphy plays 135, 140 games and he gets, 500 at-bats, he could hit 27 home runs. He could have 85, 90 RBIs. He could have 80 runs, 75 runs in that range. And like I said, the batting average isn't killing you, especially at the catcher position. It's going to be like a 250-ish batting average. So a guy like Sean Murphy, man, he's got value right now, especially when he's coming off the board at catcher 15, pick 241. Matt has Sean Murphy ranked at catcher 15. Actually, he's updated his rankings. I don't know if I have the official confirmed version up to date. I have Sean Murphy also at catcher 15. So it's right on the spot. It's right where he should be. The value is spot on for him. And after pick 200, he could be going around pick 250. I think that's great value at catcher. Just to put a bow on it and, wrap things up here at the catcher position. Let's see. Is there anybody else that I want to give a shout out to? A couple other names that I think, are pretty good that we haven't talked about. Francisco Alvarez with the Mets, had a little bit of a messy year last year. I hope he gets back to the power. He's somebody that could be really good. He's coming off the board as the 12th catcher, pick 180. So another catcher around 200. I talked about Austin Wells a little bit. Matt and I are very, very high on Austin Wells, catching for those New York Yankees. He's got pop. Somebody that's coming off the board as catcher 13, pick 215 overall. I have Austin Wells at catcher 10. I know Matt has him very high as well. I think Matt has him as catcher 10 too. Somebody you should definitely be investing in. Let's talk about, let's do this real quick. If you guys have hung around this long, let's talk about somebody that I'm kind of avoiding. Let's see. Will Smith. Let's do Will Smith. Will Smith's ADP is currently the 6th catcher off the board, pick 94. I have him as the 6th catcher as well. But here's the thing, man. I think there might be a world where he plays less. They got a lot of mouths to feed over there now. I don't think Will Smith is going to be DHing as much as he did last year. So there's a world where the at-bats come down. And I think that's where Will Smith makes his money, right? Is with the counting stats and him hitting 20 home runs every year and hitting 250. You can get catchers that are going to do that exact same thing a lot later. So I'm investing in catcher either a little bit earlier, like we talked about with the Yainer Diaz, Salvador Perez, Raleigh, or I'm just waiting at that point. I do like Wilson Contreras as well from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's going to be playing first base, and Ivan Herrera is going to be catching. So he can be kind of a cheat code at catcher too, and he's going after Will Smith. Matt and I talked about Shea Langeliers. JT Realmuto is going later as well, but probably somebody I'm fading a bit. He's getting a little bit older. His big thing was the speed, which is really not there anymore. Ohapi is another guy who they got. What's his name? Travis d'Arnaud. Travis d'Arnaud is heavily notorious for stealing at bats from catchers as the backup. He did it in Atlanta for a long time. So Hoppy's another one that I do like, but be careful. Let's see how things look in spring training. And guys, with that being said, I'm going to call it there. Shout out to, our everydayers and listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Make him your second listen each and every day. He's doing great stuff over there in preparation for the season. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. So guys, until next time. So yeah.